Love stories are absolutely beautiful, going through the journey from a sprouting sapling to a blossoming bud to the finale of a fragrant flower. In all honesty though, is there ever an end to a romance or relationship? That's fine and all, but in this video, I want to focus on some of the ugly parts near the beginning. First impressions don't always go down well, leading to an aversion of the person with whom interest accumulates. The most common of these tropes is the enemies to lovers circumstance. We see it everywhere, from literature of old to films and musicals to games and anime. In some of these stories, the setting is riddled with tragedy, while others use the cliche to enhance the humorous nature of a situation. This isn't the only case with which fear implements itself, but we'll use it to ground ourselves going into these narratives. Recently, Fujimoto 17 through 26 was released, and it dives into different facets of love. From familial to romantic, they use different mediums of storytelling such as drama and comedy to depict the specific qualities of developing and maintaining these connections. There's two stories I want to dive into specifically, the first one being Mermaid Rhapsody and the second one being Nayuta of the Prophecy. This video will contain spoilers for these stories, so here is your warning. There's a limit to what enemies to lovers can be. In the beginning, it can be a mild disagreement or a natural distaste for the other person by a chance interaction. These stories are low-key with their friction. Standing between the main characters isn't an insurmountable wall. It's a barricade that can be broken down with the proper amount of time. I want to dive into scenarios that embody a type of fear that separates the main characters. Sometimes it can be societal norms that divide the people. Other times it can be pure reactionary instinct that gives off warning signs in the face of danger. For the first example, let's look at Mermaid Rhapsody. It's a story about the breaking down of walls between mermaids and humans. In the setting of this world, mermaids aren't the Americanized archetype of princesses who are breathing and living versions of beauty and grace. That's how we come to know them in the first couple minutes, but after hearing more about their history, they are vicious creatures who feast on humans given the chance. They are aware of their expected indifference towards humans, but nature can sing a different tune. Every human knows about the real terror of mermaids in this world. However, our male protagonist is adamant about getting to know the female protagonist, who happens to be a mermaid. They bond over the art of piano, a practice that the boy is accustomed to and a relic which the girl appreciates. Spending time with one another shows them that each of their own species isn't naturally opposed to one another. However, due to unforeseen circumstances, the boy is attacked by an animal and blood is drawn in the water. This activates the girl's mermaid instincts, causing her to attack him. After this, there's a lull between the both of them. The boy is afraid of this side he's seen of the girl. He knows that she wouldn't purposefully do this to him, but going against this fear is contrary to human nature. We don't like to feel uncomfortable, especially in manners which control can easily slip out of our grasp. This is why we practice for events that we're nervous for. It doesn't matter if it makes perfect. It matters that we build up the confidence. We see parallels of this in other works that Fujimoto has written. In Look Back, Kyomoto is fearful of the world around her. There is a reason why she was a shut-in for much of her childhood. The way she resolves her fear in this story is by facing her worries head-on and creeping into the territory of discomfort. With Mermaid Rhapsody, the same occurs. The boy reunites with the girl and her collective of mermaids. He plays a wonderful serenade for the audience present and wins over their favor for him and the girl to continue seeing one another. Between this and Look Back, the stakes are much different, but they explore the same concept, branching out of our comfort zones for the sake of love and in spite of fear. It's interesting when you see these sprouting ideas make their way into larger projects such as Look Back, Fire Punch, and Chainsaw Man. In the case of Look Back, it has a grounded stature that allows for better familiarity to an audience. When you view Fire Punch and Chainsaw Man through the same lens, it is more difficult to relate. These protagonists have such troubled pasts in their stories, creating more friction for people to be sympathetic. For Agni, he is cursed with a searing agony, quite literally, but also mentally, which curates an isolation that traumatizes and stunts the emotional maturity of his person. For Denji, he is burdened with a harsh upbringing that forces him to forsake normalcy. There are no breaks for the life he is living. In both scenarios, they are confronted with opponents that make them fearful, but it's in necessity that they they need to push it down so that they may survive another day. And both situations are always plagued with the same enemy, the unknown. In fantastical scenarios like these two works, there's plenty of space for the unknown to make an appearance. It's one of the horrors when it comes to these action dramas that function like thrillers. The next story we're talking about, Nayuta of the Prophecy, tackles this exact idea with its main characters, the male protagonist being the older brother and the female protagonist being the younger sister, destined to bring about the end of the world. This narrative begins with the murder of their father, assumingly because he was harboring and protecting their baby daughter and younger sister Nayuta. From what we surmise, it is because the general public fears the idea of the world ending. It's unthinkable to them, or in other words, unknowingly scary to consider such a future. There is no mention of the credibility of such a prophecy, but the simple fact that it is in circulation is enough to put people on edge. We can safely assume that it is real. From here on out, the older brother takes care of the younger sister. As they grow up, the younger sister displays certain qualities that deviate from a regular person. For one, she has horns that appear demonic. Secondly, she only ever speaks in terms of dictating torture, gore, or destruction. She can understand English, or at least that's what we assume. Thirdly, she mutilates different animals and feeds on them. These traits estrange her not only from general society, but from her own older brother. It makes you wonder if the prophecy is self-inflicted by society itself. At this point, the older brother is showing signs of fear of his younger sister. Anyone normally would run from these events as they're barbarous. Our male protagonist, however, pushes through of his own volition. He takes a risk and continues to take care of his sister no matter what may happen. It's very similar to how Denji approaches most situations. There aren't many choices to decide from, but he'll choose whichever one he thinks will win him the affection he's seeking. Much how Chainsaw Man is a story about chasing genuine connection, the short tale is about preserving your love in the face of fear. When the older brother is forced to face the consequences of his younger sister, he grits and takes it. When the younger sister is on the verge of destroying civilization as we know it, he stands up and scolds her. Rather than run away from the consequences prophesied by his fears, he spits in the face of prophecy despite the consequences that may follow. The story ends with the pair of siblings moving on with their life. You can't help but feel like this isn't the finale of their journey. Surely they'll meet whatever they come across, but it's important to denote that both of them chose love instead of fear. The older brother feared what his sister may have done, but he believes she's more than just some words on a wall. The younger sister feared what may have befallen the brother because of her, but believes in her brother to carry this burden with her. The story is about love, but also about the importance of family. For its relation to Chainsaw Man and Fire Punch, there's obvious signs between what inspired different dynamics. In Fire Punch, the main protagonist loses his sister early on and reminisces much about what he would do if he had his volition back then. In Chainsaw Man, Denji searches for affection and finds it in his found family. Throughout the story, he discovers more people he can find home in. The chaotic nature of those worlds challenges their idea of love, family, and what they would risk in the face of fear. With the way Chainsaw Man is heading in the manga, it continues to bring up this conflict. Where I find the most enjoyment out of a story is when people are forced to make decisions. In every piece of media, whether games, television, or literature, I want there to be a choice between two things. Do you fear what you may lose out on, or will you face it despite being fearful? Thank you for watching. I'll see all of you later, you cool people.